Hello and welcome everyone to the main event. I'm Meeta Sani and I'm really pleased to be joined by our guest today, Dermot Dennehy. Hi, Dermot.
Hi, how are you doing, everybody? Great to see you.
Great to have you on board today, Dermot. And we're talking a very topical subject today. We're talking hybrid working. Now, just before I jump into the subject matter, I'm going to do a quick bit of housekeeping for everyone. I tend to do these webinars every couple of weeks, but for some reason I had annual leave, Dermot. That's what it is. Feels like it's been months. So I'm
That'll
like,
do it. That
I'm
means you've
like,
had good annual leave.
yeah. It's important. It's the balance, isn't it? That's what we're going to be talking all about today. But as those of you who've been to our main events before know, we run the session for up to 45 minutes. We know how precious everyone's time is. So Dermot and I are promising that we will keep it succinct and we will keep it knowledgeable, and you will go away with useful knowledge and information that you can apply into your world straight away. The other element that I always like to mention is that this session is for you. So if you have any questions, you have comments, thoughts, anything, please put it in our chat box. I'm just going to show you how that works. I'll just do a quick hello here. Hopefully everyone can see that. Simple as that. So please, as you're jumping in, give us a hi, let us know you're here. And yes, you've already started interacting. We have a poll today, as we usually do, which allows us to understand the direction and the situations of people in the room. And the poll today is asking, how is hybrid working impacting your workplace? So the options are attracting new employees, retaining your people, productivity, culture, and onboarding. So as you're jumping in, please take the time to let us know where you are and how your world is being impacted. And Dermot and I will be covering these areas and many more. So Dermot, let's jump into it. So you and I actually met on a previous webinar.
We did indeed. Yeah.
We got to talking afterwards. And so you are a hybrid specialist. Does that mean that your expertise has only been for the last 3 or 4 years, or
That's a great question. No, my expertise was long before the pandemic, because probably about 4 or 5 years before the pandemic, we gave up our London offices. And we decided we started doing working in coffee shops and that sort of stuff, and then went fully remote. So yeah, being remote for me was absolutely normal. It was fine. It was no issue at all. But also we were running remote teams, right? Hence the name. Whereas where we come up with the name. We were running remote teams in Asia. We were running them in the UK, and we were running them in Europe as well. So we were very used to remote working, and we took all that knowledge and then created this business when the crisis hit us, back in February 2020.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think is factual is that what the pandemic did would probably speed up 20 years of evolution into a couple of weeks, right? We knew flexible working was in demand. It had become the law that the government had to offer it, and businesses and not-for-profit organizations always leading the way in employee welfare and thinking about ways to engage and retain people had already started to offer more flexible working than the commercial sector. However, there we were, 2020, 2021, and all of a sudden we're all thrown into literally being at home 100% of the time, and then the doors open, we start edging back out into life, and then we've had to relearn how to work in a hybrid way of working, and they're not the same, are they? You've got in the office, you've got remote, and then we've got what I think is here to stay, hybrid working.
It's 100% here to stay. And you're right. We were involved in what I always call the greatest office move in the history of the world. Yeah. And it happened overnight, just like that. And we had to be experts in it. And of course, nobody was trained how to do it. And then we muddled our way through it. But then we also started to make decisions based in a crisis, and we then needed to relook at those decisions, i.e. how people worked and where they worked and all that sort of stuff. And then as we came out of the pandemic, hybrid became a thing, and people said, yeah, will we try this? And yeah, so we started trying hybrid. But people made an assumption, some people made an assumption that working and managing your people was the same as what it was pre-pandemic, i.e. in the office, and it's completely different. And people, i.e. the employees, they've got a different take on this, right? So they've got different drivers than what they had before the pandemic. So things that were sort of on the back burner, things like your hobbies, your family. We all worked till the weekend. Your health, your mental health, all those things were all on the back burner. They're now all at the front burner because they're important to our employees, and we need to find out what they think about it, not what we think they think, but what they think about this, because only then will you be successful at hybrid working. And I think that's the key. Knowledge is absolutely paramount in all of this.
I talk a lot about communication and how, when we were all sitting next to each other in an office 9 to 6, 5 days a week, communication, yes, it's talking, but, whatever the other formats are, list writing and all the rest, but actually there's listening, that is a form of communication. And the non-verbal, verbal communication of, atmosphere, body language, just watching how somebody works. We've got gaps that we're not really going to fill unless we are deliberate in how we structure our organizations going forward. And I think now, as we really have a rhythm of life again, right? A rhythm of working life, and as we said, pretty much hybrid is here to stay. We know from, that the poll has 4 or 5 different options, but one of them about attracting and the other about retaining are huge. We, on our recruitment side of our consultancy, time and time again have employers that say we will only employ people for 5 days a week. And there are people who will employ people 5 days a week in the office. And there are people that will do that, but you're probably looking at 1/10 of the pool that you would normally have to choose the best person from. So
what's that telling us? So I'll tell you what because we obviously see a lot of this stuff as well, right? And what that's telling me is this. So when you see an advert on, I don't know, on LinkedIn or wherever you put the ads, it says, hybrid working. And then when you dig a little deeper into it, and you go to the interview, for example, and you say, so tell me about the hybrid working new potential boss. And they say, right, well, you can work 3 days from home, 2 days from the office. All right. Okay. And is that it? Because if that is it, then I can guarantee you that a candidate can smell that for what it is, like a sommelier can smell a good wine, right? He will go, or she will go, this doesn't really feel right to me, right? Because hybrid working is not just about the practicalities. Hybrid working is about the soft skills of your manager, right? It's about trust, because trust and productivity are linked, right? It's about mental well-being. And mental well-being is not just about having mental health first aiders, right? It's a lot deeper than that, because it's all about kindness, really, right? And then the culture of your organization, right? What is your organization? What is the real culture going to be? So if you haven't sussed all of those things, then you are running your business like you ran it before the pandemic. But if you're
just paying lip service almost,
you're totally paying lip service, and they'll smell it just like that. They'll just go wherever, and then they'll go somewhere else.
And what we're here to do today, and I know this is what you do in your business 24/7, is to help organizations have a level of sophistication and understanding about the impact of hybrid working. As you said, and when we run our training courses on remote working, hybrid working, as I said, communication, clarity of expectation, how people manage, how they manage up, as well as how they are managed. It all comes into the trust and confidence. You talk about trust and productivity, trust and confidence. What we're here to do today, and hopefully anybody that wants more information can reach out to Dermot and myself afterwards as well. We're both on LinkedIn. You'll get the recording of today's session after today, later on today. And that's, I suppose, is our promise to you, is that if there's something that's specifically a challenge that's going on, we can answer that. Or if you feel that you need a hybrid audit of where you do well, where you might need some more support, or where you're actually not haven't even thought of the impact, we can look at that too. So and that's what I think, actually, Dermot, most organizations are somewhere along the spectrum of like really engaged or paying lip service.
I think that's a fabulous analysis. And just going back to what you were saying about being available, I mean, I'm always available. You can always get a hold of me on LinkedIn. But one of the other things that we're also giving to people is we will give everybody a benchmarking for their organization. Let me explain what I mean by that. And this is, first of all, it's free, right? And secondly, it takes up none of your time, i.e. you, the senior leader's time. It takes up 10 minutes of your people's time. But we ask the questions in our benchmarking. We ask the questions of your people that you need to know the answers to, right? So you call it an audit, right? I call it a benchmarking. So I ask questions like, and this is to managers and employees that are set and separately, right? It's confidentially as well. And I say, do you believe that the organization has built a culture of trust? Because trust is key, right? I mean, it's in every relationship. My relationship with you, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my friends. Trust is the most important thing. And if you ask the senior leaders will, yes, of course, we do trust. I mean, I didn't trust them at the start. We thought they were all putting the washing in the washing machine, but I'm sort of over that now. But so when you ask the people, generally they come back with a slightly different answer, shall we say, right? And that's when a senior leader's got to step back and go, wow, okay, so there are some questions in here that we need to answer.
There's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect, right? And sometimes there's even a disconnect between managers and employees, right? So you say to the manager, do you think you're an empathic manager? 100% yes. Do you think your manager's an empathic manager? Maybe not all the time. And that's what so now you've got some data, and now you can say, right, how do we fix that? Right. And that's how we can help. But
and I think the
power.
I think the power in the conversation and the acknowledgement that this is where we are, this is where we want to be, and you agree where you want to be together, employers and employees, just knowing that everyone is on this path of better hybrid engagement and success means that you'll start attracting people and engaging people and retaining people, because that is then what you can talk about. This is I talk about pillars of purpose, refining and improving our hybrid partnership is one of our pillars of purpose this year, whatever your organization's language is. But I'll tell you what, Dermot, quite interesting. When we first started the poll, straight away attracting new employees was top, then retaining your employees went up, culture went ahead for a little bit, and now retention and culture are equal. And actually, retention and culture go hand in hand, because usually people talk with their feet, right? You're saying we start a dialogue. Absolutely, to have this dialogue started is going to help you retain people. It's that people leave when they don't feel that they've got a voice, where they don't feel valued, where they feel invisible.
Exactly. And do you know what? When I talk to CEOs or HRDs, I always say to them, what was the culture like before the pandemic? And they say, it was brilliant. We had a really social culture. I said, oh, right, okay. So how did that manifest? Well, we've got 100 people. And I said, well, we used to go to the pub on a Thursday evening after work. I said, brilliant. How many used to go? 8? Same 8? Yeah. Every week? Yeah. Okay. So they're really the hardened drinkers, right? Now, that was okay then, right? Because that's the way it has been since forever. You now need to think about the other 92 people. Why didn't they go, right? And they didn't go because they may have not been able to afford it. They may not be drinkers. They didn't want to watch you getting drunk, or whatever the case may be. They wanted to go to the gym. They may have had kids at home. They might have had an overbearing partner. We now need to bring all those reasons, right? Or any, or And now we need to think about, when we create the new culture, right? We need to make sure that everybody is included, right? So, and whether that's a collaborative culture or whether that's a social culture, you need to do things whereby the other 92 people are included, because it's their culture, right? And when we talk about things like collaboration, right, it's really important. What is collaboration? Well, collaboration is trying to get a bunch of people together to do a job, right? But, it's not just that, right? You need to have everything in place. You need to have great management. You need to have the right technology. You need to be able to be clear on what you want to achieve. All of those things, and you can still do all of those things in a hybrid manner. Those people who are saying, we must get everybody back to the office 100%. I believe that they've got different drivers. I don't know what they are exactly. Only they know who they are and why they're doing it.
Those drivers have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Goldman Sachs wants everybody back. Why do they want everybody back?
Well, because they want Goldman Sachs to be home for people. They create success by having people stay there literally 24/7, and for a long time, so did Google and Apple and all the other big tech firms. They made it like a campus. People didn't leave, and that's how they got more out of them. But
exactly.
I believe that people did have an existential sort of revisit into, what, I can do this differently. And as an employer, I certainly felt that the world had caught up with how I wanted to be, which is holistic as a CEO, not just there for my people's career, but to help them build a family, to help them grow their personal their personal self-awareness and journey.
Yeah.
And so getting that triangle right, feeding all areas is actually what's going to help people feel understood, seen as a human being and not just a worker, and hopefully create some of that longevity in their role in the organization. So I think there's going to be many different leaders and many different experiences coming in, and some it sits more comfortably with, others they hate it, and I've heard it all and I've seen it all.
Yeah, they hate it. I think that's a really good. It sounds like a really sort of nasty word, but it's actually the way that people are. There are some people out there who just think this is such a bad idea, and then when you drill down and you ask them why do you think it's such a bad idea, it's almost like they just think it is. And why do you think it is?
Yeah.
Because.
Yeah. That they haven't got the tools, they haven't got the awareness, they don't
have the data.
Yeah.
They don't have the data. They've made a decision based on what they think themselves. And I say, you are the boss. You do run 100 people. You do all those things. But they know because it's not the same as what it used to be. It's not like like we were discussing earlier, that when Henry Ford did it 100 years ago, we'll all work in an office. We've been doing it for 100 years. And we thought that was the only way of doing it. Those days are gone. And if you don't catch up, right, you're going to find it hard to retain people. You'll find it impossible to recruit people. And I guarantee you that their productivity will be nowhere near as good as what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Now, why would you want to do that for what you believe to be correct?
And it's important, I think, in this day and age, to try and be a trailblazer, not just to follow, but to actually attract people because of your uniqueness and forward thinking and open mindedness. I think, again, hearing what employees want and the employers that do attract good people, it's organizations that understand that you have to be agile, that you are willing to try things, keep what works, let go of what doesn't. Your people have a voice. They have, they're valued in their opinions. And actually it may not be a democracy, but it's a collective approach that creates the success of an organization, and therefore collaboration is key. Dermot, we one of our sort of first points that we said we would talk about is that the data that we need to run a good hybrid working environment, a successful hybrid working environment, is hiding in plain sight. You touched on your surveys. Can you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I say it's hiding in plain sight, we'll just say that you are the CEO. We're thinking about a CEO, and we call him a him for the time being, so I don't have to keep saying him and her.
Yeah.
He's going, I think it's a great idea that we work in the office or whatever it is. But, the real data is going to be with your people. So you need to ask your people. And the questions and the 4 pillars that we concentrate on when we're asking the people about how they're finding remote or hybrid working for them are as follows. One is soft skills. And we ask things like, do you believe that your manager is empathic? Do you believe that your colleagues are empathic? So we dig into that sort of information because it's very, very important. Yeah. The second area that we talk about is trust and productivity. Excuse me, because trust and productivity is, trust is very obvious, right? Trust is, I trust you or I don't trust you, but trust is also very brittle and it breaks very easily.
Mm.
But there's a link between productivity and trust, and that's engagement. And engagement is, when you've got a strong connection with your co-workers and your bosses. It's about people feel that they bring value to the organization, and they relate to, and they've got pride in the product or the service that they deliver. So we need to ask questions around how they feel about trust in the organization, right? And again, as a CEO, you're going, yeah, of course they trust us. I'm sort of getting to trust them now. But it's not just about you, remember. If you've got 100 people, it generally means you've probably got around 20 line managers, right? And I would be very surprised if every CEO will be able to put his hand on his heart and say, I believe that all my line managers trust my people, or all my line managers are empathic, right? And if they're not, let's just say, 2 or 3 or 4 of them are not empathic or trust their people. That has a massive effect on the 5 or 6 people that plug into them. Of course it does. I don't want to go to work tomorrow to work for a guy who's unempathic, who tells me to leave my problems at home when I can't pay my gas bill. Yeah. I don't want to work for him.
And again, during the pandemic, that became a real positive, where actually, because everybody was going through a crisis and we didn't know whether we were going to be here in a month or 2 or whatever, all of a sudden, how are you was genuine. And it's pretty sad for those that have lost that going back. And we train a lot on meeting structure and appraisals and one-to-one. And actually, it's all around personal engagement and building that trust so that you can have an honest professional conversation, which then allows engagement and productivity. So connecting on a human level and teaching people how to connect is everything.
And you know where you start? Your starting point is being kind.
Absolutely.
Just be kind to people, right? If you start, if they're annoying you, be kind to them. If they're not being very good at their job, your starting point is be kind, right? Because before the pandemic, what we used to do is, right, okay, we start to manage people out of the business, or we go through a process with them about trying to make them better, whatever the case may be, right? But now they've got other drivers. Right now they can't pay their gas bill, right? That's a great example.
Yeah.
Right? Do you want me to be really brilliant at my job when I'm working and I can't pay my gas bill and I can't even tell you about it because you think I should leave my problems at home? No. Yeah. So the other 2 areas, I'll just quickly touch on the other 2 areas that we talk about in the benchmarking, is mental well-being. Yes. Now, we're not PhDs in psychology, right? But this goes back to what I just talked about a second ago. And we don't want to be PhDs in psychology, right? We talk about how to identify what poor mental health looks like and where to signpost people. But you need to ask the question, right? Do you think that your organization is a mental health first organization? Yes, I'm the CEO. Yes, of course I do. I've got a mental health first aider. I pay $2,000 to have that person trained, right? And we've got an EAP, which nobody uses, of course. I hope there's nobody here from an EAP company. And yes, they can knock on my door anytime they want. And we also pay for a meditation app, by the way, right? Your people are turning around and saying, that's not good enough. That's not enough, right? Because we don't use the meditation app, we don't use the AAP, and the mental health first aider, nobody's going to see him or her, right? So, and you need to know that. So then we go back and we have the next part, and then the last part is obviously about culture. We've discussed culture already. What kind of culture do you want? What kind of culture do you think we have, and how can we make it better than what it is?
And what's important to you? What is important? And I actually think culture, we start with culture, and people actually, when we run a culture day for our clients, we start with the question, who do you value and why? That could be a personal member of the family. It could be a friend or a colleague. It could be it could be somebody on television, but it's not so much the who, it's more the why. What is it about those people that you value? And likewise, who would you cross the street to avoid? Maybe it's Donald Trump, maybe it's, Kris Jenner. They usually come up as 2 of the most.
Yes, indeed, not surprising.
But again, but the why, exploitation, lying, and all of a sudden you create a matrix, a framework for what you stand for and behaviors that you celebrate, encourage, and hold each other to. And you have what we will not tolerate, non-negotiable. We will not allow these to be in our organization. And we actually teach and structure ways for organizations to then celebrate, keep that alive, talking about it, rewarding for it, building it into the rewards and benefits. And all of a sudden, once people align on values and behaviors, then they start to trust that whatever you put that on, is it hybrid working? Is it a new manager or whatever? You know that we're all going to follow a code of conduct in how we apply ourselves in that situation.
And you know what? Right, you're absolutely right in everything you've said, right? But all of this is very easy, right? I've got one particular client, right? A very, very big client, a huge client, right? And they take years to get anything done, right? Years, right? 2 points. One, all of this hybrid working thing, right, can all be fixed really quickly, right? The thing is that you get everybody involved. That's the first most important thing, right? This does not have to take years. This can all be done in months. That's the first thing. The second thing is, don't think that's where it stops, right? Because things are evolving so fast, right? But this is your base. This is your foundation. You've got to get this right quick, and you've got to get it done now. Because if you don't get it done, right, you are going to find to struggle. You're going to struggle with your retention and your productivity and your recruitment. Because look at what's coming down the road: 4-day weeks, AI. I mean, AI has blown everything out of the water in the last 6 months, and I have no idea what that's going to mean going forward. But I know it's going to mean a lot, right?
They're likening the discovery of AI to the discovery of electricity. I was reading about. I mean, it is life changing,
right? But here you have people trying to work in a hybrid manner when their manager is saying, "I don't care about your gas bill, leave it at home." And then suddenly AI is going to come in next week, and they're going to go, "We need to do this in AI." They're going to say, "Do you know what? Right?
Yeah.
To hell with this, right? I'm going down the road to Meeta's company because she's got this sorted out, right?"
And people are really talking with their feet. One thing we've seen about the employment market post-pandemic is it's a bit like a roller coaster. You've got high demand in jobs, lack of people. Now you've got a plethora of people. Everything's settled down a bit. The demand in jobs, the industry has lost its confidence a little bit, but they're plodding along. But actually, people will not move unless the role is absolutely 150% right. And almost now the parameters for decision making aren't salary and 3 to 5 year plan, rewards and benefits, culture. The hybrid goes to the top. What is the company's policy on flexibility? What is how am I managed? How am I supported? I talk a lot to managers about saying, once you've embedded people, once they're working for a period of time, let's not call these reporting lines. Let's call these supporting lines, right? Let's turn this into how can I support you? And if that means it's once a week, once every other week, whatever that is, and it's got to be individual. I think you spoke about getting everyone involved. The other part of that is make it individual, because we've talked a lot about hybrid and the training, the levels of training, but everyone has a different, it's like a fingerprint. No two people's experience of hybrid success and failure is the same.
You hit it on the head.
Yeah.
You hit it on the head, right?
People have to be understanding at a human level again, which is going to allow them to bring solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to even if it goes back to that thing, a simple example, that thing about culture we talked about earlier, right, where people can't afford to go out drinking, they don't like drinking, all those things. You need to create something which includes everybody. And if your starting point is, we'll say, like Goldman Sachs says, everybody back to the office, that's a one rule for all, right? If that's your starting point, then you're back at pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
You need to, I know it's a bit harder, but you need to take everybody into consideration. So Meeta, she doesn't like to start at 9 o'clock in an office day because she's got to bring the kids to school. She wants to bring them into the class. She wants to give them a kiss, and she wants to get back in her car and drive into work, right? So can we get her starting at 9:30? Yeah, why not? Yeah. So that means she misses the traffic.
Yeah.
But isn't it easier if we get everybody in at 9? Easier for who? For you, so you can see them? Stop thinking like that. Think about them. They're your biggest, most expensive asset.
Yeah.
And you're treating them like robots.
People. Yeah.
Huh?
It's expensive to replace people, and not just the financial cost, but the impact on the other people in the organization. The trust really breaks down if there's a high rate of attrition, and it becomes a pattern. There's a question from Janice actually asking about whether we provide a recording, and we do, Janice. A recording of today's session will go out automatically at the end. So if you missed anything, you will be able to catch up on it. So Dermot, we've spoken about how to collect data. We've spoken about, understanding people on an individual basis, bringing everyone into the mix. But once you've got that data, what structure would you recommend businesses and not-for-profit, all organizations apply to go from where they are to where they want to be? And I know that's a very open question, but if we can give somebody attending today a bit of a blueprint of steps they would need to take, what would that
so
like?
I'll tell you what we do. So what we do is we do the benchmarking. So we've done that. We got the data. We sit down with the CEO or the HRD. We go through it and we say, oh, look, you've done an amazing job on mental well-being. Well done. It looks like you're a bit light here on, we say, soft skills. What do you think? Yes, I agree. Do you want me to help you? Love you to help me. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next stage then is that we do another smaller but a deeper dive into soft skills in terms of a benchmark. We ask some other questions and we put those questions away. They go in the safe, right? We then do our training, right? And the training is, it's an hour long. It's punchy. It's interesting. It's interactive. But I know, right, because I've been on enough training sessions when I was in corporate land, right? I know that not everybody will retain everything. I know they won't retain an awful lot. That's just the way we are, right? I'm not going to deny that. Why would I, right? So the magic doesn't happen in the training. For me, the training is for them to go, aha, got it. I know what he's talking about. He's even talking about me.
Yeah,
right?
It feels very personal.
Very personal.
Yeah.
Then the next part is the action plan. We give every manager in the organization the same action plan, which contains the deck of the training, the speaker notes, every word that I utter, and jobs to be done, tasks to be done, right? Those tasks can be self-reflection about you as a manager. It could be one-to-ones with your people, or it can be group sessions. So if you take something like, I don't know, let's take psychological safety. You get the managers and the employees, then sit down and say, right, okay, because remember, the employees have been on the same course, just to a different audience. And they're expecting the manager to say, boss, what are we doing? So we sit down and say, right, guys, Dermot said we need to talk about psychological safety here. These are his notes. This is what he wants us to talk about. Here's a refresher on it. Let's put it together, all of us, our team. And then they create it, right? And then they get that implemented. And then what we do is we go back afterwards and we do another deep dive 3 months later, and we say, right, remember the questions we put in the safe? We do them again. And this time we want to see, my manager, 50% say the manager's unempathic. Now it's 75% are saying that he's empathic. The needle has moved, right? And that's what we want to do. And it's how satisfied you are with that. If you think it should move more, I will throw everybody back on the training course again for free. And I've never had to do that, right? So that's our guarantee, right? But you need to take steps. What you mustn't do, right, is you mustn't close your eyes and put your fingers in your ears, right? Because your competitors will be gone past you, you will get left behind, and your people will leave, and they'll be less productive, and you'll end up with all the bad ones, if you have any bad ones.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you walking us through your approach, Dermot, because one of the things I really loved about your way of working, and somebody might say, why is a consultancy who delivers training bringing somebody else who delivers training as well? But it's very different, and it's very important to understand that everybody learns in a different way. Businesses, organizations have different budgets, they have different time availability, they have different challenges. And so for me, if we as an organization can surround ourselves with other great organizations that can help us deliver fantastic support that will allow any partners in our world to grow through engagement, through retention, through success and happiness. I talk about success and happiness a lot. And the hybrid layer is an extra layer. It does require planning. It can't happen by chance. Successful working through hybrid structure has to be designed. And essentially what we're talking today is about how we design it. So when we go into an organization, the way we make it stick is we offer coaching, and we work very much with leadership, but we also get the feedback on the ground. Different structure to yourself, Dermot, but one thing I've seen is that employers tend to look at it from their problem. Employees tend to look at it from their problem. And what I think is really powerful is a reflection exercise, almost saying what you're saying is, the way you feel is, the impact you're having is, having that little bit of walking in the other person's shoes. And it becomes a bit like a relate session. And every relationship requires support, right? External support.
Yeah.
So between a manager and his or her team, there needs to be that openness of communication. And you speak about soft skills, and for me, communication is number one in that. So many mistakes and disagreements or misunderstandings happen from assumptions. So that would be, I suppose, where I would start is by making no assumptions and actually acknowledging that we all have each other in a virtual room or sitting next to each other. Let's take that time to ask some questions and constantly become an environment of questioning, checking in, not having any assumptions, because it's the assumptions that then create the misunderstanding, that then again creates a mistrust. And I think one of the biggest challenges that hybrid working has created and hasn't necessarily addressed is the opposite of people being expected in. It's when people are remote and actually become isolated and actually feel unseen, perhaps not misunderstood, but just not valued. And so we've got to both perspectives of the challenge.
There are so many facets to this, right? Because you talk about somebody who's remote, right? And I take dev guys, so developers, right? And I've dealt a lot with dev guys over the years, dev guys and girls, but you know what I mean, dev people. I remember going into working with agencies in London, developing apps, etc. And I remember going to a meeting. You'd have the sales guy in there, you'd have the CEO in there, you'd have administrators in there, and then you'd have two dev guys in there. And the two dev guys would say nothing for the whole meeting. Not one. They're the cleverest guys in the room. They say nothing because they're not comfortable, because a lot of them are introverts. They don't like being in there. So do we want to force that guy or that girl back into the office, right? Why? They love being on camera. They love being working from home because that's where they're comfortable, right? So like going back to what you were saying earlier, that there's so many individual things. Everybody is an individual. And I know it's a bit harder, but we have to take everybody into consideration because they now are making decisions based on how they're treated and how they feel. And as you say, they can just vote with their feet. Why wouldn't they? Right. So we need to step back. We need to gather good information, and then we need to fix it. And it's eminently fixable, and it is dead easy to fix it. Right. But if we don't do it, the next stuff that's coming down the road is going to hit us like a train. Right. And it's going to blow us. People going scattering everywhere, and they scatter everywhere. I guarantee you, they won't be coming back to your organization. They'll be just gone. And you'll be left there in the middle of the track with a business going, where are all my people?
Absolutely.
Sounds a bit dramatic, I know, but
well, you say that, but actually, it's devastating when a business loses somebody they weren't expecting to lose. So it absolutely feels that way, like a bomb's just gone off in your office. So
I'm going to give you an example. Sorry, I hate to butt in. My son works for in the city for a very large, well-known insurance company. Right? And very recently, another challenger insurance company came along, having raised £1 billion or dollars in equity, and started poaching people from the industry to build up their business. And they went along and they poached a team, a cyber team, and then they poached another team, and then they poached his team, right? And they were offered a lot of cash, and they went.
And that's Saudi Arabia in the football right now, isn't it?
Exactly, right. And do you know what happened? The CEO came along and he was indignant. He said, I can't believe you're leaving, and we've looked after you, and and he said, we can give you more money. And my son said, it's not about the money, right? And do you know when it all started? It started with their bonuses, right? And it wasn't the fact that it was the fact that they felt unappreciated, right? It wasn't the amount, it was the fact that they felt unappreciated as human beings. And you know what? The other guys cottoned onto this and they nailed the whole lot. So did it affect the original business that he joined? Hugely. Hugely. They can't find people. And now there's rumblings and grumblings all over the place. And now there's more teams leaving, and suddenly it can just implode on you. Because
their share price is probably going like that.
Yeah. And only because somebody somewhere made the decision, bonuses for the UK people, it'll be X. Yeah, but this guy has done this. I don't care. Not interested. The finance guy says that's all we got. Hang on. But what happens if we lose? If we lose him, it'll cost us 50 grand. Well, that's not my problem. My God, So being kind, thinking about your people, listening to them, stops all that stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that treating everyone as an individual for a manager, I know from experience of speaking to managers, they feel overwhelmed. So what I would say is have a structure of whether it's a team meeting in face-to-face, a team meeting over Zoom maybe once a month, a one-to-one, whatever structure, weekly, monthly, whatever you think it needs to be. Have an agenda. So actually, you've got a blueprint of the touch points. Then you adjust the blueprint for the individual. And pretty soon, it won't feel like you're having to reinvent the wheel every time. And for larger organizations, you don't have to think about yourself as this huge world. Just think about that manager and their team. And that's it. So actually, it is quite a small little, I'm thinking about what they would say in Kew Gardens for one of those little globes of
an ecosystem.
An ecosystem, that's the one. It actually is quite a small ecosystem, even if there's 100 of those ecosystems. Just get that done consistently, and you can scale the success by design of a hybrid working world.
You're so right, and I think even just going back to the thing about the meeting, if you say, if it comes from the top, from the center, meetings will start off with an agenda, and then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not how we do it. We say, yeah, look, guys, you need to have a meeting, right? But there's 20 managers, right? Here's your action plan from Dermot, right?
Yeah.
You need to interpret that, right? Because you're different to the sales team, to the other team, to the finance team, or whatever it is, and you pull that together with your people, and you come away from that meeting happy that you've done something together, and it works for you guys as a team.
Absolutely.
And then you've nailed it. Then you don't have to have this massive control from the center, as you say. Individual managers, individual employees. That's what's going to make this work. We're all individuals. Gone are the days where we're just a unit. We're not a I can't remember what they have in the army, but a group of soldiers, whatever it's called.
Yeah, a battalion?
A battalion. We'll call it a battalion. We're not a battalion of soldiers who march up and down the thing all day, just going.
Everyone's not uniform.
Yeah. There's no individuals in an army, right? You do as you're told, right? 5 of you run that way and 5 of you run that way. That's what I'm telling you to do. You can't have a democracy there. This is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
And that's why this works and that works there.
I think the collective is the culture. I tell you what else I think is really important, and it never gets utilized enough, is a job description. Because a job description, if utilized correctly, isn't just a description of the role. It becomes a working document. Now, you can evolve from a job description to a task-orientated document that allows a manager and an employee to establish priorities, what good looks like, how success is measured. And that isn't just necessarily, targets that are tangible. There can be intangible markers as well that I looked at on there. I think everybody wants to feel that they are adding value and successful in their role. But if they don't actually have the clarity of what good looks like, they're never actually going to be able to benchmark whether they were a little bit this way, a little bit that way, or spot on. And so as managers, again, when people were in the room with you, you could see that. You could do a shout out. You could do a magic moment. You could go and, walk over and shake a hand. How are you going to create that in a hybrid world? So really think about creating the clarity of expectation, a two-way street. How do you want to be supported? This is what your role looks like. It's completely changed with people being hybrid. People now don't just come in and do work. They think about the week. They think, right, the days from home, I'm going to do this. The days I'm in the office, I'm going to do that. Work with them, coach them, help them work out the best way to get the best out of different environments. Create collaboration points in the offices when people go in. Don't just make it another day. Do a team breakfast. Do something. To strengthen the bond of everyone working together, or actually just let people chat for half an hour. With that, let's just down tools, everyone. Let's just get to know each other again. We haven't connected in ages, and actually, all of that will they usually talk about work half the time anyway. It's good habits. And I think something like a job description that becomes a working document for each manager and their employee to agree a modus operandi of what good looks like means that they can then really be aware of when people are doing well, to say well done. And actually, even more importantly, if they're struggling, to notice it quickly and help rectify it.
So much to do.
A lot to think about.
Very easy. That's the only thing I can assure everybody. But don't do nothing, as they say. Terrible grammar, but
yes,
yeah.
Indeed. Well, Dermot, we are already at the end of our session. That went really quickly.
So fast.
I know. And I just want to say thank you for your insights and expertise today. Thank you to everyone who's attended today, who signed up. If you're watching this later, please share this with your network and anyone else in your working world, or even loved ones. You know, if you know that somebody else will benefit from this, we encourage you to share the message. As promised at the beginning, details of both Dermot and my contact criteria are all going to be sent out to you with a recording of today's webinar. And it just leaves me to give you the results of the poll. So the question was, how is hybrid working impacting your workplace? In top position is 44% said retaining your people. Second was culture. That culture was impacted. And in third was attracting new employees. Interestingly, productivity and onboarding didn't get any votes in this session, but I know that Dermot out there, you've sort of seen it all, haven't you?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
The beauty of the approach is that we can be flexible in how.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all about getting it right for individuals and for organizations, right? You know, you retain your people with the right people, and treat them well, and give them clear direction. All those things we mentioned. You know, your productivity goes up automatically, right? It just does, right? And if you think it doesn't, then I think you've missed it.
So I think the parting message is lean into this. Lean into looking at your hybrid world, doing some analysis, and then addressing the areas that need
and most of what we do is free, right? We work a lot with non-profits, right? So but in general, most of what we do is free. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, indeed. Right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to close off for today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next main event very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye, Dermot.
Bye-bye. Bye.